I stand before you with a whole mess of speakers, some of them boxed, some of them unboxed already. But why? I'm going to answer that question for you. But after I'm done answering that question, I've got some questions for you myself. See, you, dear viewer, are going to help shape how we handle this whole battle of the box systems video. Let's have some fun. Welcome back to CalebRated, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and in front of me here we have the TCL Z100. Sounds like a radio station from your youth, doesn't it? The Morning Zoo crew. Sorry, TCL, you know I'm never gonna let that go. And we also have the Hisense Saturn. I'm sure there's a space joke in there somewhere. And then in the middle, eagle-eyed viewers of this channel will know that we have 4/5 of the Sony Bravia Theater Quad system. So what do all these have in common, and why are we set up like this today? Well, here's the thing. I've noticed that there's this whole trending box surround sound system where you get most of your theater system in a box or two that is very much unlike a soundbar, and that there is no soundbar. It's the whole move away from the soundbar thing, which I guess makes sense because soundbars came and we fell in love with them, and then we fell out of love with them, and now we're here. So what these systems have in common is that they are very much not a soundbar. I feel like we fall in and out of love with our electronics, and the soundbar, while still very, very good and still very, very popular, some folks are getting tired of it. Also, it's not the right solution for everyone. These systems have another thing in common in that most of them are almost completely wireless. That is, there's no speaker wire running to any of the speakers. And the third thing that they share in common is that they're all supposed to put out really convincing Dolby Atmos surround sound without a care for where you put the speakers. So we're gonna have to put these head to head because there's a serious price difference among these, and they also, well, they serve different needs, right? They're not all the same. The Hisense is looking like a competitor to the Sony Bravia Theater Quad, but it comes with its subwoofer, and it's only got 2 channels of Dolby Atmos, whereas the TCL Z100 uses Dolby Atmos Flex Connect technology so that it doesn't really matter whether you have 2 or 3 or 4 speakers. It's supposed to put out this just amazing cocoon of sound. That's why we have to put these against each other, because they're all trying to deliver something of the same kind of experience in very different ways at very different price points. But before we do any of that, we got to unbox them, take a look at them, see what we're working with before we get them set up and conduct our full review. Sound good? Let's do it. All right, right off the bat, I can tell this is going to be super interesting because I have heard the TCL Z100 while I have not heard the Hisense Saturn. And so I've managed to come up with some first impressions based on how this feels, but without being able to square that with how it sounds. Whereas with the TCL, I kind of knew how it sounded, so it was different to feel the speakers when I unboxed them. So let's just start at the top and work our way down. The Hisense does come with a box like the Sony Bravia Theater Quad, but it is significantly smaller. You're gonna be able to hide this just about anywhere, including right behind a TV. Now, to be fair, I think you could probably do that with the Bravia Theater Quad box as well. But it's magical that this little box is gonna control this whole show. The idea here for those unfamiliar with the Bravia Theater Quad is that you run an optical cable or HDMI cable from your TV into this little box, and it extracts all the surround sound and sends a wireless signal to all of the speakers. Speaking of, let's get to the speakers. These have a decent amount of heft to them. Sometimes when you pick something up that's lighter than you think it should be, you get concerned about the quality, and we'll talk about that in a second, but these feel good. Real simple. We're gonna be plugging these into power and letting this magic box figure the rest out and tell us what to do. You can use the Hisense Saturn system with pretty much any TV, just like you can with the Bravia Theater Quad. Now, there will be some special features, I assume, that make it more desirable to use this system with a Hisense TV, just as is the case with the Bravia Theater Quad and Sony televisions, but they will work with any TV that has an ARC or EARC output or an optical output. Let's talk about the sub though. This sub, you know what, I'm gonna put these speakers down. This sub is, I took it out of the box with one hand, one arm, and it just, I don't know. It has a decent sized driver on the bottom, and the cabinetry is what's concerning me here. It's very light, doesn't feel like it's stuffed with much of anything, and not at all inert. So I feel like this box is gonna make a boom boom noise. We'll see for sure when we test it out, but I don't know that I feel really good about what this thing is about to do. But we'll see, you know. We'll set that bias aside for a second and we'll see how it goes. One more thing before we move on. We have a remote here, which is to be expected since we have a little box. I think if you have a Hisense TV, that remote is going to be able to control everything about this system. But if you don't have a Hisense TV, you'll still be able to access every bit of the menu and all the special features get unlocked with that remote control. First thing you notice about the TCL system is that there is no box. And that is because it is going to be driven by a TCL TV. That's part of the reason why we won't be setting this up and experiencing it today. We're currently reviewing a Hisense TV. We've got to get a TCL TV in here. Specifically, I'm going to use the QM9K, teaser alert, in order to drive this system because it gets its signal from a TCL TV. That's the whole Dolby Atmos Flex Connect thing. Now, beyond that, I mean, the speaker physically is kind of tall and imposing. Kind of reminds me of the original Sony Quad system had cylindrical speakers like this, but they're nice and heavy. They feel good in the hand. Some of this is, well, no, it looks like it's all plastic construction, but I feel like the speaker magnets in here and the power supply are adding a lot of heft. And had I not heard this system before, that would give me a lot of confidence that it might sound good. The subwoofer, on the other hand, you know, I mean, it's not particularly heavy. In fact, it might even be lighter than the Hisense subwoofer. It feels stronger though, like something, yeah, did you hear that? Compare that to the knock sound from the other subwoofer. That is the mark of a well-made subwoofer when it doesn't really have a lot of cabinet resonance. So that's a good start, even though this driver, significantly smaller. But, you know, spoiler alert, like I've heard this subwoofer and it does make some pleasant low-end sounds. So here's what's gonna happen next. I'm gonna set up the Hisense Saturn with the Hisense U8QG TV behind me, use it for a little while. And then when that review's done, we'll bring in the TCL QM9K and start using that with this particular system, the TCL Z100. The cool thing about using the TCL is I will be able to listen to all three of those systems, kind of cycle through them and make some comparisons. Although I think by the time I've listened to everything, I'll pretty much have it sorted out. But we do love a good comparison around here, and we're gonna film some of that for you to see what you think. But that is where I wanna pivot to asking you some questions. What do you need to know out of this comparison? I think these are gonna be three very popular systems out there. I think all three are trying to take down the soundbar. I think they're all trying to provide a really great Dolby Atmos surround experience. So what do you need to know outside of the basics, right? I'm gonna give you a great sense for how well they pull off Dolby Atmos, what the fidelity is like, but what do you wanna know about the experience difference? What do you wanna know about when you should buy one or the other? Obviously, if you're not buying a TCL, you're not buying this system. But assuming that you have a TV that can drive any three of these, what would you want? How do you want me to weigh value here, the sound quality versus the price? I need to know a little bit more about that. What are some other important features that I might not be thinking of? If you own this system, what do you want it to be able to do? What do you want to know about these systems that nobody has told you yet? And do you have any specific suggestions for content that you would like me to use while testing these different systems? I want to hear about all of that down in the comments section below right now. And I'm going to try to fold in as much of it as I possibly can. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, this could take a little while because we've got TVs to review, we've got trips to take, we've got three different systems going on here. And I think this comparison is gonna be especially important as we head into the holiday season when folks are really gonna wanna know if they should pick one of these up with their fancy new TV. Thank you so much for feverishly typing in the comments right now. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna read all of them. I'll respond to as many as I can. And of course, I'm gonna fold all of your feedback in to the big battle of the box systems that'll be coming to this channel real soon. Welcome back to Caleb, everybody. Welcome back to Caleb. No, that's not how that goes.